All right. Hello, Christal Kapoor. Hope I said that right.
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. Okay, so before we head into politics and Miss Fiji and Miss Lautoka, Miss Sugar Runs, and before that, I just like to know you. Like, who are you as a person? Like, where did you grow up? What's your background?
So I was born in Lautoka, like just like Ava has an emergency C-section and is rushed to Lautoka Hospital. So I was born in Lautoka, but I was raised in Singatoka till I was um, till high school. Then Form 3, I came to Lautoka. I was at Jasper, and I owe a lot of who I am to Jasper Williams, and a lot of my beliefs and my ideas and opinions on life and people are based off what I learned in Jasper. And then, due to some family issues, I had to go back home to Singatoka. Stayed there till university, and then I came to Lautoka, and then my family moved here, and then we've been here ever since. Um, Even though I have um, lived here now for so long, and this feels like home now, I still think of home, like Singatoka all the time, because I love Lautoka. I do so much. But the one thing I really don't like about Lautoka is that we don't have nice beaches. Just makes me so sad. So
We, we we have
because of that,
rivers and creeks.
yes, and apparently I heard there's like waterfalls. Still have to discover that.
Yeah, I have to discover that also. This is the first time I'm hearing about a waterfall in Lautoka. So Singatoka, so the area that you lived in, was it like a diverse area, or was it an isolated area? Like, what type of community did you,
It was a diverse area.
hmm? Like mixed races? And
It was very diverse growing up because my mother, yeah, like there was a whole lot of mixed people around. When I was first growing up, like during early childhood, you could say, my father lived in in a rural Indian community. So I spent the first 4 years of my life there. I had to move to an urban setting. So while we were living in the rural Indian community, just across the river was Semo village. So from that time, I have been having a lot of interaction with people who are not Indian or Indo-Fijian, but Ethiopia as well. I remember there was a Fijian man, and I don't know why his name was Mere. Like he's a Fijian man, but his name was Mere. And even though I met him after ages, I was a young adult by the time. And I met him at a funeral, and then he's like, "Yeah, I know you." He's like, "I know you. You're small. Now you're so big." And I was like, "Yes." So that relationship after so many years was there. And then when I moved to the more urban setting, like Rotumans and mixed race people, and then I realized, oh, so we're not the only ones in this country. There's other people as well. And then I went to Singatoka Methodist Primary School, which is one of the biggest schools in the Singatoka district. So you had people of every race bringing their children to school there. And I was never one to stick to, one person. I love to talk, if you haven't noticed. So I talk to everybody of every race. And that time, because we are kids, we don't have this notion in our head that there's something called race and we're all different. We just know that, oh, he just looks kind of different. He's got curly hair, and yeah, that's it. But we don't realize that they're totally different people from a different racial background. But I think that started when I think I was in class 4 or something. And then, you have the teacher write down, okay, so how many Indians in our class? And everybody goes, oh, it was the Indians. Okay, so. and oh, how many Fijians in our class, and all of that. And I remember, so my teacher was an Ethiopian woman, and then she asked me how many Fijians in my class, and I went, and then she goes, why are you putting your hands? And then I was like, because I'm Fijian, and she goes, no, you're not, and I'm like, oh, I'm not. That's where it settled in my brain that I'm not technically Fijian yet. And then I was like, why is that so? So
It's
from there, I
yeah.
realized
I mean, it's
that,
really interesting to see how someone who grew up in such a diverse community where you don't see race, you actually see individuals for who they are, for their characteristics or
yes,
personalities, and then to go into a system where they say, you're not Fijian, you're Indian. um like
right?
your brain must have been going like, code red, like what is going on, like why are they separating people by their race? And and here's another thing that I don't understand, is why people
Right. So,
confuse Fijian with race when it's a nationality. So yeah, uh,
right.
like you wouldn't call um I mean, let's say a black person in America, you wouldn't say that they are not American. They are Americans. They actually fought for
Yeah,
being
they are
recognized as
American.
Americans. Yeah. So and then what
So,
what happened after that?
so I remember, so I go back home, and in my head, how old are you in class four? So class one, you're six. I was 9. So my 9-year-old brain can't seem to process this thought of, oh, I'm not Fijian. Why am I not Fijian? Why am I not, like, what makes a Fijian person Fijian, and why am I not Fijian? And the ironic part was, rugby, the sport of rugby, it unites everybody. That's the good thing about rugby, or any sport for that matter. You, for one moment, forget all of these things that divide you, and you're all just like together and like, yay! So when I was growing up, this is, I don't really share this to anybody, but I feel like it's such an important aspect of who I am. So while I was growing up, when I was like, you know, probably kindergarten class one, I had a red rugby ball. And every time I used to hold that rugby ball and I used to tell my father that, oh, you can call me Serevi, you know? Because in my head, in my head, Serevi was one of us, you know? Serevi is us. Serevi represents us, all of us. But I didn't realize that Serevi and me were somewhat different, you know? And then, so I went home and I met somebody who my mother's a teacher, and she's taught children of all racial backgrounds. And my mother is one who has never been very judgmental about it. She sees things in a very equal way. And so I went to my mother and I was like, oh, so my teacher said I'm not Fijian. And my mother's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, no, I'm not Fijian. Why am I not Fijian? How am I not Fijian? I'm from Fiji. I live in Fiji. Why am I not Fijian? And she's like, oh, it's a long story. So she, in her teacher way, tried to explain the whole race relation thing that had started with like the 80s, kid version. And you're like, oh, I want to know more about it. So I started poking here and there. And then I realized that this thing has been there for such a long time that some people have started to take it the wrong way and are so violent and so stereotypical about it. And I for one absolutely hate the fact that when you go down to schools, children sit down in the classroom together, but the teacher will ask you, how many of you are Fijian? How many of you are this? How many of you are part European? How many of you are this and this and this? I don't get that. I mean, in schools, you're supposed to teach everybody that we are all the same and you're supposed to love each other and tolerance and unity and all of these things instead of pointing out, oh, she's different because she doesn't have curly hair, or she's different because she doesn't eat like this sort of food, or does this sort of thing, or speaks this language. We're all unique. I understand that our ethnicities are different, but the nationality still remains the same. We're all born here. You can't change that.
Yeah, exactly. And that
So,
that division sort of manifested itself in the 87 coup, where people ran on ethno-nationalistic
oh yeah.
ideologies. Um, you know, there's this rhetoric going on that we don't want an Indian government. Like, what do you mean by that? I'm Fijian. Everyone who is a citizen is Fijian. It's a Fijian government. Like, doesn't have anything to do with race.
um,
Moving on, did you experience the same thing in
go ahead. In pageants, um, let's just say, okay, so my first pageant like experience
Oh, no, no, I meant in high
would
school.
be in high school.
I meant, did you
In high
experience?
school,
Uh,
yeah. So let's go. So man, like this connection is just beautiful. Anyways, so um, so well, actually, if you look at it, my pageantry experience and high school experience goes together because I first got approached for pageantry when I was in Form 3 in Jasper. So I had an English teacher and she approached me and she's like, oh, Christal, we having sugar and we want you to be the sugar team contestant. And me, being a hostel student, but like I don't have much on me like this. And then I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, we're just going to go through a screening process. And I go, okay, let's go for a screening. So we're sitting behind one of the classrooms underneath a tree. And then she goes, okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself. And mind you, by that time, we were not given the title Fijian according to the constitution. We were still Indo-Fijian. And so she's sitting on it. I was like, okay, hello everyone, my name is Christal Kapoor and I am from the province of Mandronga, blah, blah, blah. And I go, and I consider myself a very proud Fijian. And then she looks up at me and she goes, like, you know what is she saying? And I was like, because if a person born in New Zealand is considered a New Zealander, and if a person born in Australia is considered an Australian, I am born in Fiji, so it gives me the right to be calling myself a Fijian. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, okay. And then at that very moment, I knew I wasn't gonna do it.
oh, did you beat you for that?
I mean, I don't know. Like she just didn't say anything. She stopped. She didn't tell me if I did good or anything. She just
You were in
stopped.
shock.
And then she's like, okay, thank you. Like I bet at the back of her head, she's like, oh my God, she's gonna cause a big controversy. We can't take like this one there, and like this will happen, and da 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 da. So it stopped. But other thing about high school, like I said, a lot of my learning happened at Jasper Williams. It's because it was a boarding school. And in a boarding school setting, you learn to live with girls of other races. Whether you like it or not, you're going to sleep together, eat together, and you're just going to be a big family. So in my dormitory, there was four Indian girls. We had about 12 people, but there were four Indian girls that time. And the rest were Itoke, and there was some Nauruan girls. And not only did we have to learn how the Itoke people behave, but we got to learn about how the Nauruan people behave. So my exposure at high school was not only now, to our country, but then there were other people around. then I started to realize that um, when you were in high school, by that time, like you have little seeds of racism already there, you know, just waiting for somebody to water it and grow into a big, beautiful racism tree. So I remember we were divided into racial groups again. It was for girls' meeting. You're supposed to be divided in, and they're like, okay, so all the Indo-Fijian girls will go to the Indo-Fijian teachers, and all the Itoke girls will go to the Itoke teachers, and the others, we'll just look for someone for you. And I'm like, what? I mean, we're all girls. You could all just talk to us. You don't have to. What is my Indo-Fijian teacher going to tell me that is different from what my Itoke teacher is going to tell me?
Do you
You
think it
know?
might have uh, had to do with language barriers? Probably. So
Maybe, but we were all in high school and it was compulsory to speak in English.
yeah, fair point.
So why not compulsory to I mean, why not compulsory to speak in English during a girls' meeting? It makes no sense, you know? Like, and it was funny how like we when we were girls and we were growing up together, like, you know, we had young teenage girls fresh from our houses. Some of us have never been away from home. This is our first time away from home in a hostel. And then you have to eat together. And that is one thing that you can really tell that people have all of these stereotypes about everybody. So when I mean, and when it comes to racism, I'm not just saying that the Ethio people are racist. Oh, our ethnic group is just whole another level too, you know? So
Uh, we,
we
we-
had
we've also deviated into colorism.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like a hybrid
that too, that too.
combination.
Nobody takes stuff much like us. You can always count on us.
Yeah.
So if the group of there was like a group of Indian girls, right? So if they know that the food is going to be cooked by an Ethio group of girls, they won't eat. They wouldn't eat. And I went to them and I was like, "Oh, why aren't you eating?" I was like, the roro is so good. And they're like, why are you eating their food? I was like, when is it their food? It's our food. We have to eat this food. If we don't eat this, we won't have, there's nothing else to eat. We have to eat this food. And they're like, no, but they made it. And I was like, who's there? And they go, they. And then I was like, who? And then like, all the silent signals. And I'm like, oh, I was like, and so? And they're like, oh, who knows what they must have put inside? Must be some beef or something. I was like, we literally are in the same place. Like you could just go and ask them, instead of just like pushing yourself in the corner. Or like they would definitely know that a lot of us, because they knew there were other races there, they wouldn't give us beef. I mean, it's common sense. And I was like, well, I don't know about you. I'm eating. So I ate. And then sometimes it takes only one person to start something. And slowly but surely, that group started, okay, huh? If she's eating it, like we'll eat it too. What's the big deal? She's eating it. So we all started. And then hunger is something that would always unite people, any race.
Second that. I second that.
So there were times in hostel life where you have nothing to eat, nothing, and you are hungry, like you are really hungry. So Jasper Williams Hostel has a secret recipe of a secret snack that only the girls in the hostel know how to make. So I can't reveal it because it's a secret. So whenever we had that, So whenever we had that, all the girls, regardless of whether their names were Mary, Melissa, or Minakshi, everyone sat around and ate from one plate that same snack. So that's when I realized when the opportunity or a need arises, nobody sees this, you know, and everybody just joins together to fend for each other, to make sure everyone is fed and doing great. And that's the part that gets to me right now, like so bad, especially in the COVID-19 situation where you're all just like, oh, like these people are like taking our money and like, da, da, da. No, we are just as hungry as you are. We want to eat too, you know? Instead of just talking about each other's differences, hey, come together, no? Like I give you something, you give me something, let's work it out together. So simple.
Yeah, because I mean, it all really comes down to the individual level. I mean, as you said, when you're hungry, you're hungry. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you have to unite,
Mhm.
find food, or try and survive. Um, so right at the bottom, we're all human beings who just happen to look different from each other. Uh, s- so you won all three of your pageants. Would you describe it as pageants?
Yeah, it was pageant. They were pageant.
So you won all three or all two? I think you won Miss
Two.
Sugar and Miss Lautoka, right, in 2019, and second runner up, Miss Fiji, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Why all in the same year? Like, did something spark in you? Did you say that, this year I'm gonna win and just go for it?
So Miss Sugar is technically Miss Lautoka. So when you have the Sugar Festival, you're looking for Miss Lautoka. So Miss Lautoka is who is going to go and represent the city of Lautoka to Miss Fiji that year. So that's why I had to do it all in a year. But if you come to think of why I joined pageantry, oh my god. So growing up, I talk too much, and I always had an opinion about everything. Everything I had an opinion in. And most of the times I could back it up with facts. So everybody would just listen, like, oh yeah, Crystal's talking. So sometimes it made no sense because I was growing up and I just wanted to have my way. But most times it did. So a lot of people who knew me, like they were around me all the time. Especially my godmother. My godmother, by the way, is an Itoke woman from Kandavu. So she always told my mother, like, oh, she's gonna go and like be Miss Fiji or something someday, or Miss Hibiscus, because hibiscus to us is like the biggest thing. Like nobody imagined I would come here to Lautoka and then be Miss Lautoka. Everybody thought, oh, she's gonna go to Suva to study and then end up being Miss Hibiscus. But I came here to study, and um, so now I was here, and then it was in school, it was in university, and they had a flyer, and the flyer said, um, 18 to 24 young ladies, if you're interested, please apply, la 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 la. And I had was just going to turn 24 that year. And I was like, it's now or never. If I want to do this, it's now or never. And I was like, because if I turn 25, there goes my dream down the drain. And everybody's dreams that were attached with me wearing a crown someday down the drain. No, don't leave it. I'm gonna go. So I went, I called, and they picked up and they're like, okay, come down. And we went and got assigned stuff. We got interviewed, went through. One thing about pageantry that I noticed, even here at the city level in Sugar, is that nobody sees you as weak or not good enough just because your race is different. You know, to the people who organize the pageant, all the girls have the same amount of capability, whether Itoke or Fijian of Indian descent. The other thing I like about the Sugar Festival is that in the teen competition, there's not just girls who are from Fiji. You have girls from Korea and Japan. So it's for everybody. You don't constrain it like to like a specific race. Like, oh, you're not from Fiji. What you gonna go do there? You know? They're like it truly embraces the fact that we are there to empower women and to give them a platform to speak their minds and make a difference. Um, After I did win Miss Sugar or Miss Lautoka, then I went on to do Miss Fiji. While I was at Miss Fiji, there was little bits of racism because I was one of the top contenders um, of that year, specific year. And I didn't, like, to my knowledge, I didn't know all these things were going on social media because I was too busy, just making sure I did great because I was getting a lot of hopes and dreams, not only for myself, but a lot of people back at home. And I was representing a big, beautiful city that I was so proud of. So I was so busy on that, I didn't pay attention to all the hate on the internet. So during the crowning night, a lot of people expected, they had their favorites. They expected certain people to win. Some people expected me to win. But a lot of things got dirty and really, really racist because a lot of people said that I wouldn't make a good representative because I wasn't Fijian or I wasn't Fijian enough to make a good representative of Miss Fiji to a Pacific pageant because Indians are not a Pacific culture. And in my head, I'm like, how am I not Pacific? Like, I've lived here my whole life. My whole life is sun, sand, and Pacific Island culture, Pacific Island people. My whole life has been spent on an island, and you were telling me that I'm not Pacific Islander enough, like, oh, I'm not the real Pacifica people. So I was like, okay, fine. I won't let it get to me. I know what I am. I'm very happy. And Miss Suva, Miss Hibiscus, won Miss Fiji, and she did a wonderful job of Miss Fiji. She is just as beautiful as she is on the outside. She's beautiful on the inside. Very sweet young woman, and very intelligent too. And I'm so proud of her. She did a good job of representing us. And I wouldn't say like that people didn't get to our heads at that time with all of this racist comments. They did. They did. Because in the backstage, you would have all of this nasty gossip going about that even the girls, we wouldn't even start those things. But just, internet, people around. Oh, you remember, you, it's okay. This is your Vanua. You can do this, Oh, you know, they like, oh, what does she know? She doesn't know anything. She's from the village. Her English is not good. Like, la la la. We were just there to make our families proud and to represent ourselves. But all of this nasty bickering at the back of our heads, just like for 1 minute we had just
Get to in the 21st century,
yeah, yeah,
2019.
yeah,
It's really surprising. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
pageantry is beautiful. I would encourage everybody like who wants to do it to do it, but you have to be so strong at times. Like you have to be super strong because you have so much going, and then sometimes it ruins a lot of friendships that have been there for a long time. So that's it.
I mean, so it must have been such a roller coaster of a ride. Uh,
Oh yeah.
because in a way, it's like someone is trying to strip your identity off of you. Uh, because you grew up in Fiji, you were born in Fiji. You
Mhm.
you don't have any knowledge about India, because you never grew up there. You don't know the people there, and people assume that you somehow have like a deep connection in India, when in fact you don't. You grew up in Fiji. Your
You
god
have zero knowledge about it.
okay. You grew up in a diverse community till class 4. You didn't even know what what races were, and to
Mhm.
have someone strip that away from you, it must have been really devastating. uh, I
Oh,
mean,
that was.
I've had a few experiences of racism in my life, but you know what you've described, it's on a whole another level.
If you look at it, women tend to be more on the front lines of every sort of like abuse. If you look at it, and because a lot of people don't have a lot of stuff to say to men because they're not looked as vulnerable or weak. But women, you'll be like, oh, like how you said the colorism thing, and you're like, nobody, hardly ever people will say, oh, like, oh, look at her son, he's so dark, who's gonna marry him? Automatically, you have people in our ethnicity, they're like, oh, look at his daughter, like she's so dark, he's sorry, who's gonna marry someone like that? She should, like, I don't know, put on some fairness cream or something. Nobody picks on the sons. It's always us. So I think that needs to change as well. So, but that's another topic for another day. So let's just leave that there. Another thing that I have noticed, another thing that I have noticed while growing up, like Singapore is very diverse because I think it's because of the tourist factor. So nobody really, like, looks at the fact that, oh, like, oh, that's not like us. They're not like us. Everybody just lives together and lives a very happy life. And a lot of Fijians of Indian descent in Singapore, sorry, we speak it okay. We speak it Bauan, we speak it Nandrungan, even the Navosa. Everybody's like nearly everybody, majority of the population know each other's language, and they will talk to each other in each other's language, which is really,
My
uh,
uncle, he grew up
really,
in Singatoka Valley, so whenever, I mean,
yeah.
he lives in New Zealand now, but whenever he comes to Fiji, he always he always fancies that Nandragan dialect. You're like, how do you do it?
It's the best dialect in the world. Everybody, our dialect can go. It's the best. You can write it down.
So
So,
I cut you. Yeah.
and I think my father is also a major contributing factor as to who I am and what I am today. My father, nearly all of his friends have been Itoke, and my father's been a fanatic. You have those people who like rugby, and then you have those people who are obsessed with rugby. My father falls in this category, the obsession one. So my father would never miss a Nandronga rugby match ever, ever. If he has to travel from Lautoka and the game is in Suva, he will go. He will go. And he sometimes won't even go alone. All of his it's okay friends at the back of our vehicle and we're just going. I've gone to watch Sukunabao so many times with one of my father's good Itoke friends. And my goodness, we like we realized from a very young age that all of these things like sport, food, um, festivities, these things are not there to tear us apart. This actually brings people together. But nowadays, you look at it and they're like, oh, I think it was you. Yes, you recently sent me that thing like, oh, isn't it good enough that we're letting you celebrate Diwali and, all of these things? We are not the only ones who are celebrating it. You celebrate it with us. It's not like we put up a sign outside like only Indo-Fijian people allowed. Everybody else go home.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
everyone's welcome.
and not all Indo-Fijians also. I mean, they don't they're not Hindus. Like not all Indo-Fijians are
Right.
Hindu. I always
Like,
find that crazy. I think it also has to do with I guess education or or the knowledge of vocabulary. It's important to distinguish between religion, race, and nationality. Once you're able to do that, then I think if you form an opinion on things like this, it'll be much more legitimate.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I think recently, a few days ago, Roshika posted up a status that was about the Fiji Airways whole plane debacle. And there was a particular lady, because Roshika said something about my people. She meant Fiji as a whole, right? But this particular lady took it into another context, and she thought when Roshika said my people, she meant Indo-Fijian. And she started this whole rant going on and on and on. And people were like, trying to tell her, no, like, that's not what she meant. Please don't say that. And like, please don't, like, because this lady went on to say something about, oh, I like my Indo-Fijian brothers and sisters, but as long as they keep their mouths shut. Why will I keep my mouth shut? Like, okay, thank you for liking us, but I will not keep my mouth shut. Sorry. I will not stand against racial abuse. Sorry. So, and then she went on to back up her statement by saying that she's not racist. She said she was just sharing her opinion, and Roshika was racist when she said, my people. So that's when I realized that sometimes little education indeed is a very, very dangerous thing. I'm just saying. Entirely my opinion.
I share that opinion too. uh, w- I mean,
Yeah, so it's sad.
you've shared your individual story about how you have faced racism, or signs of racism, or implications of it. Do you think
Hmm.
that probably represents the Fijian society as a whole? Do you think it's still a major issue, or or is it as bad as it was in the 87 coup, or do you think we're progressing away from that?
Well, a lot of people don't know. So this too, I'm going to incorporate a story because stories make things relatable. So a lot of people don't know, but in my house at the moment, I have an Itoke sister staying with me. She used to stay with me during high school when I went back to Singapore, and then she left, and now she's back here, and she's been staying with us ever since. And my family treats me, my real sister, and her the same way. So I think it was May 14th we were discussing about Gidmit because she wanted to know more about, Gidmit and what it meant and people and so we started telling her stories like that we have heard from our ancestors being passed down. And we reached 87. And when we started talking about 87, she started weeping. And I got a shock because I was like, why is she crying? Like, like what's wrong with her? And I was like, why are you crying? And then she's like, there's a lot of facts that both the races don't know about the reality of 87, especially in our generation. Talking about our generation, we know 87 happened. We know who did it and what was the reason, but we don't know the real life stories attached to the 87 coup. We don't realize a lot of people, even like the Itoki community, they had no idea what the real story behind the Itoki movement in that period of time was. They just went because they just went. It was like more of a go with the flow kind of thing. And she said it's so important that we share stories, that our ethnic group and the Itoke ethnic group need to be able to sit down and share this experience because we might not see it, but the Itoke also have trauma from the colonization of this country. you know they might not show it, but it's there. Thank you to Arthur Gordon, who did such a wonderful job. Not. So, you know, so she started weeping, and I was thinking at the back of my head, and I was like, this is so true. A lot of the racism that we face now, I'm not saying it's completely gone, it's still there. When things like this happen in the country, where you have like this COVID situation, when you have all of this elections coming up, or consultations about the budget or the constitution coming up, you see all of this racism just, bubbling. And you think, why? We're living in this time, in this century, in this date. People are educated. Why are they still thinking of this? It's because these stories haven't been shared. It's because a lot of people don't find any common ground, you know? And it's so sad. And then she told me, she's like, I remember a lot of like people from her ethnic group having so many stereotypes about us. And she's like, coming to live with you, I realized that those things weren't true. So unless and until you get to know one, unless and until you get to spend time with one, or get to know their stories, their history, their true culture, you can never know a race in entirety. You can't. And I am so proud that our university, I think 2 years ago, organized a trip. It was called the Yellow Vata trip. And it was all of the School of Humanities and Arts final year students who decided to make a trip to all of this historic sites, the Fiji Museum, National Archives. We had to go down to Nodo as well, but we couldn't. So we went there to find common ground, to find where our histories mixed together, and how we could share each other's burden, how we could share each other's pain and find joy in that unity. So instead of thinking about how different we are all the time, we need to realize that we are both communities who have been washed, whitewashed, to be exact, with the colonization of our countries. And we have been taught racism. You go to rural communities, you have the Itoke brother and the Indian brother, they will sit together in the same bloody cane field and they will eat together and no one's gonna say anything. But you bring them to the city and you have all of this political agenda going around, and then they will start to not want to be with each other. So racism is always taught. It's not there all the time. I mean, that's my opinion.
And it also could be due to the, how should I say, the tribalistic uh, uh, culture of Fiji, and from both communities. It's not
Mm.
because following the 87 coup and what happened in 1879, even way before that, um, the exploitation of the Gurmit workers, it sort of formed this tribalistic shield, or covering, that we need to protect our own. But then eventually that's
Mm.
manifested itself in a negative way, where 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 when you're trying to protect
Yeah.
yourself and your people, you separate other people, or you remove other people from your life, from your social, um, geographical location. um, it's it's something that we as a society need to do, and I'm really happy you mentioned that we need to share our stories. We need to have a
Mm.
civil discourse, uh, because when we do that, we will be able to understand each other's um, suffering. And when we do that, we can not only sympathize but also empathize and move
Mm.
forward as one, as the Fijian nation.
Um, a lot of people in the Itoke community look up to Brother Salawas Kuna. I, for one, look up to him. have huge respect for the man. I really like the man, if you ask me. I have a reason why I really like him. When I do speak of him, a lot of people from my own ethnic background always question as to why. And I explain this to them. He was an Itoke man, an Itoke boy, who went to school at Wairuku Indian. It was an Indian school. He attained his education there. What makes you think that in an Indian school he didn't know how to speak in Hindi or didn't get to interact with Indians? Of course he did. Later on, when the internship system was done away with, and the Indian people had to settle. That time they were Indian. They were not here, like born here. They were Indian. So they had to settle. And then he decided to get all of the chiefs together and talk to them. And they're like, okay, we have our land, because he set up the native land trust board. And then he's like, we have our land, but these people, they need a place to live as well. And we need to realize that both of us have to work together. He has a speech somewhere, and we are currently studying that speech, and it's so moving and so touching. Every time I read the speech, I cry. So he said, we have to learn to work together and move together to be able to make our country free. Because he knew what the greater enemy was, and it was the colonization of the country. And he knew that we had to work together to make sure that we were free from, our common oppressor. And a lot of people don't want to think of that. They want to think of him as a great statesman. He went and did this, did this, did this, did this. But little do they realize he had so much love and respect for the Indian community in that time. And it's very important that we note that side of his too, instead of the side where he went and did, fought great wars and went to Oxford and all of that. So he was a very, let's say, a pioneer in all sorts, of ways in
Uniting
this
people.
country. Yes, yes. So why do we just see him as a leader of only the Itoke people, And why don't we see him as somebody who gave us the privilege to be able to, settle down and call this place home? So, in my opinion, I have so much respect for him. And um, remember the thing that you shared with me, and it said like, "Oh, you remove Ratu Salal Sukunat and you're like celebrating Diwali." Like, we didn't do it. Like, why are you saying that? Like, the government did. We didn't do it. Why are you blaming us?
The generalizations, I tell you.
Like, we didn't like write a petition. Yeah, like we didn't write a petition. This is all the Fijians of Indian descent in this country. We don't want Ratu Salal Sukunat Day. Thank you, government. Bye. Like, we didn't do that.
Well,
So don't
I think it was about
blame us for something.
2010, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's been quite a while we haven't celebrated
11 years.
holiday.
Yeah.
He deserves it though. He deserves it. I feel he deserves it. I'm just saying.
And
So yeah, that's a really sad part of history that we you know, don't realize cause so much divide. One day, the removal of one holiday, and everybody's like, oh, they did it. And we're like, yeah, why do we need it? And they're like, no, you people did it. And like, yeah, but why do you people need it? Like,
yeah.
So it starts this whole another level of racist rivalry. So yeah.
What are your thoughts on Fiji first? Hopefully, I'm not putting you on the spotlight.
No, you're not. You know how you have like this trip, you go on a trip, and at first it's so exciting, and you're like, yay, you're gonna see new things and do new things and all of it. And then slowly you start getting bored, and then you miss home, and you're like, okay, now this trip is not nice anymore. So yeah, that's
It's
my opinion
more like
in an
more like
illustration.
on a ship, and then you have rough waters coming up every now and then.
Yeah, and when the rough waters come, like the ship, like the captain's like, so what now? And then everyone's like, I don't know. Like, okay, yes, this gang over there. Yes, this gang. Hey, what now? You know.
And then the other boats are just completely wrecked. This is
So
really
that's how it feels like. Yeah, the other ones are like, who are these strange people? What do they want from us? And they're like, oh, throw them some food. And like, okay, yeah, take some food.
I was discussing with a friend. Fiji First is currently at its lowest point,
Oh,
um,
yes.
especially with the two major incidents. The first one was Bal Aluwalia, and then you had the police bill, which became really controversial, and
Mm.
there was a national outrage.
So, yeah. So, you know what's funny is, so my dad's a cop.
Oh boy.
My dad. No, so he's a cop. And so I was thinking, but by the time he was already like preparing to go on his missions trip, so we just, you know. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, imagine some policeman is just running on the street trying to catch a criminal, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna use your car now, bye. Just like goes off. You're just like, uh, like how do I react to this situation? You know what I'm saying? Like the police is there to maintain law and order. Yes, I get it. The police is also equipped with their own amount of vehicles to do the same thing. Why would you want to take somebody else? Like, it makes no sense, right? And then for you to just walk up to some random person on the road and be like, I think you're a suspect to this crime. Can I have like your phone and stuff? And I just want to go through it. Why? It makes no sense.
The
Like
bill
they would,
happened without a warrant too.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So you wouldn't need it. He would just, he could be walking down the street and he has a personal agenda against somebody, and he just because he's a cop would have the right to be like, hey, give me your phone. You know, my father doesn't even do that in my house.
No, and what was funny was that after all this national outrage, everyone, the PM and all these MPs, they came out and they acted like they had no idea what just happened.
Right? I
And
was like,
yeah,
it's like, you know, it's like, oh, so it's like they had a discussion. So tomorrow, when the news goes out, like it's been like, it's no more. We just pretend like we don't know anything, right? Everybody just do a good job and pretend like you don't know anything. And then like they walk out of the parliament, and then it's like, it's like, you're the same gang that wanted to see our phones, you idiot. Like, oh my god. Like they made some good changes. I won't deny it. There have been good changes. But as of late, it's like they don't even know what they're doing anymore. It's like they wake up in the morning and they're like, okay, so I'm gonna do this today. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. And then like everyone just goes does that. You know? It's sad. It's so
to
sad.
be
It's so
honest,
sad.
Sodalpa had a clear win 2022. They had a clear win,
Yeah.
but they just have too many internal conflicts going on, and
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, this is my prediction, and I could be wrong, but I think Fiji First is going to lose seats, and so is Sodalpa,
I know.
and NFP is going to gain seats. So Sodalpa
And
and Fiji
like,
First would lose seats, and
yes,
NFP.
NFP is doing a really good job. You know what? What was one thing that I was really sad about? I was like Fiji First. If they were, a bit smarter, they would have like tried to make a collision with NFP, especially for like in terms of the economy, because Dr. Prasad is like, yeah, he's got some of his flaws, but he knows what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because let's not forget about the Panadol and what was it? The lamb chops.
I actually,
Yeah.
my dad wrote a seminar on that. Uh, do with Panadol. I'll send you the link after.
Panadol like took the cake. It knocked it out of the park. Honestly. I was like, why?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then yeah.
if you look at it in the broader sense, NFP and Fiji First they do have some qualities that are
Yes.
they do have a unifying ideology, and both of them are left wing also. So that would make Swadalpa right wing, the other side of parliament, and just to create that balance, because it seems like everyone who is not a Fiji First supporter, but even though they might share similar ideas with them, like for example, you agree with them on some things, like addressing
Mhm.
everyone as Fijians, but yet
Yes.
you have a dislike for them, and so do I in many ways. It seems like everyone
Yeah.
hating on Fiji First
I
because
mean,
really obvious reason.
like I feel like they could have handled this situation way better. You know, we are a tiny island nation. It could have been handled so much more better. And I also feel like there's not enough disclosure of information to the public, which is really sad because you're a democratically elected government. The people put you there because they had faith in you that you would be, transparent and accountable towards them. And then when you were there now, and you're just behaving like every other government that went before you. So what do we do now? Like, who do we vote for? What do we like? And then one thing, if a lot of people don't realize, is that due to the trauma of the 87 coup and then the coups after, a lot of Indians will not vote in favor for Rambuka. They won't. It's not because, they don't like his policies and all, because of the whole image. You know, I know he has asked for forgiveness and he's like, I've changed, but how many people are you going to convince? People who have lived the 87 coup would never vote for him because they have so much loss and trauma and pain attached to the memory of the name Rambuka. They wouldn't want to. People have been stripped of their family land, stripped of, you know, some people have been stripped of their honor and dignity. I know women who were raped, you know. And if he thinks that those women will be like, okay, yeah, like here's my vote, you can be our prime minister. No,
I mean, it's not just forgiveness.
you
When
know,
you ask for forgiveness for something that you did, you also have to acknowledge it with certain with
right?
uh,
Which I think he hasn't done at all, at all.
yeah. I mean, he still got all the privileges of government and taxpayers' money. Um,
Mm.
it's funny
And then
how he just came into Sodalpa, just went for one election and then stepped out and then like ruined everything. He just put like a hornet's nest inside a room full of people and then
yeah,
just left.
he's like, hey, look at the room. And like he's like sitting back and enjoying the show. And I know for one, like even though he's saying that he won't start a political party, he will. He will.
I don't think he's gonna get votes. He's not gonna get a
No,
seat.
but I know a lot of Itoke people who are very strong supporters of Rambuka, who who think he will make the best leader for Fiji. I remember walking down to the hot bread, the one in right where the corner shop used to be. Now where they have this like booming liquor business here. So that hot bread. So I walked down there and then I was buying bread. And then one of the ladies who works there, the front page talked about how Rambuka had left South Africa. And so I was buying bread and then she goes, "Oh, he's gonna come back." Like she just like out of nowhere just said that to me. She's like, "Oh, he's gonna come back." And I was like, "How do you know?" She's like, "Oh, he can't leave us like this, you know? He's gonna carry us through. He's gonna carry Fiji through with his new party and I'm going to vote for him." And I was like, "Good for you." And I just like, got my stuff and walked out. So for one thing, I know there are people who still support him. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that Bill Gavoka is in charge of Sodelpa now because of his personal relationship with the Attorney General. So that's still there. Um, I'm not a very, what can I say? I don't like to pinpoint things, but like I know for one, if that was something that they would use, you know, politically, he wouldn't have given his daughter to her in the first place, you know?
I'm not
And like,
sure about
oh,
yeah. But you'll definitely make it to the papers tomorrow.
please don't say that.
I'm
I
just,
will leave.
I'm just kidding.
Like, no, but like, that's my opinion. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I can see why
And
there
then,
would be a conflict
um,
of interest.
yeah, I know a lot of people, like, a lot of Itoke people who have been talking about things like that, you know? Like, you sit down, like, a lot of people, a lot of politics is discussed where people of medium to low income gather, you know? And they see these things in a very different way. So when I sit around, places and like people having conversations, I like to like, add my opinion and listen to what they have to say. And a lot of Itoke people have said that now they don't have much faith in Sodelpa because Bill Gavoka is there and he's heading it. And they feel that he might have a conflict of interest and be siding with the Attorney General. And then you have those people who know them personally and they're like, oh, but he doesn't talk to his daughter and they don't like each other anymore and all of this other rumors going around. And you're just like, oh, okay. Because you can't believe everything on the street.
Yeah.
So,
I'll probably be having Linda Tamuya on the podcast soon, so it would be interesting to see what she thinks of Bill Gavoka, because I think she's trying to
yeah,
make ground at the moment. Like if you've seen some of her TikTok videos and
yeah. I mean, I for one felt like she could have done a better job with that platform, you know? Like instead of
because it was
inciting
misinformation, like
hate.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, like inciting hate and spreading misinformation and making a ridicule of the situation that we have right now. She could have spread more awareness as to how we could invest in subsistence farming, how people could maintain social distancing, stop gathering, all of these other things, because she knows she has a very strong influence. And then here she goes pretending she's going to make play for dinner. Why would you do that? Like, if you have a good platform, use it for good. Use it for good. I don't understand why people nowadays tend to like put other people down, you know, or when they have so much influence. Like, do good, man. The world is enough bad already. Like, do good. Do good.
in my opinion, the opposition, they are spot on with attacking the government. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
apart from this instance, like otherwise they're really good at attacking the government. But then but they aren't able to provide a good enough solution or good enough substitute for what the government is currently
Right,
doing.
right.
So I think they really need to work on that,
So
provide more solutions,
yeah,
just criticizing.
yeah. Like you see the problem, you see what they're doing wrong, but don't just point it out and then sit down. Help them to find, okay, find the solution to the problem that you're both facing. Because it's not just that the government is facing that problem, you are facing the same thing also, but you are helping them, you're criticizing them to see, okay, this is a loophole, this is where you can fail. How about you do this instead, no? Like, so it makes it better and more foolproof. But now here we are like, no, you're wrong. And then someone from the back says, liar. I love our parliamentary session. It's like, like the bickering they have is like they've never been to, like, some of them behave like they've never been to like school or something.
Have you seen that
Like, oh my goodness.
the Attorney General, he called out Biman Prasad for having the NFP background, and then
Oh yes, and did you
other
see?
MP like he just grabbed the
He's
board.
like, yeah, yeah.
It just became a meme overnight.
It was like, why is he sitting like that? And so, okay, so he's sitting like that. He doesn't get like removed,
And it
and
wasn't even a political.
then Joseph drinks growth. Like, I was like, okay. I was like, he's literally sitting down like he's having a good Talanoa session with his cousins from the village. Like, I was like, and I'm like, okay, so one gets like, completely like removed from his position for taking below. And then you have this one who was like just like on a picnic, and then and then he just like, just swoops to the side and just removes the like slow, and you're just like, hey. Like, oh man, took the cake. Have you noticed sometimes when you have like the live parliament sessions and it comes on TV, and then you have like the minister like in front and she's like full, making a point, and then you have the MP at the back. He's like, like,
That's all taxpayers' money going right there, just sitting down
and
and
you're just like, are you even paying attention? You know? Oh man,
and it's a
it's
disgrace
just
in a
really
way,
sad.
like that's our taxpayers' money. At
Oh
least
yeah,
pay attention. It's not like you're doing it for the whole day.
right. Oh man, and then you have people who are literally like, not you're sitting. You have people out in the field, like blue collar workers, and even like most like teachers and like frontliners. They're always working, 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 working. They don't keep still, and some of them are still so underpaid, especially like you have those people who are blue collar workers, and man, they don't get paid enough for the work that they do for this country. And then here you are sitting in parliament on their money, and you're going, it makes you look really stupid. Like, oh man. One of my favorite, I would say, people from like the opposition is Nico Nawaikula. Like, he's got so much bigger, like that man, you
Right.
know?
For me,
Oh man.
I Nico, to me, he seems like he changes his views based on what his supporters want. Like he was against the 97 constitution, and then now he,
Yep.
he wants the 97 constitution back.
Right? So I like him because the fella's like
And
adds to the entertainment factor.
yeah, I mean, I got pissed off at one of his posts just last week. He justified the 87 and 2000 coup. He
That's never justifiable.
and it had to do with that business meeting that the AG had, where you had all Indo-Fijian people attending that meeting. Have you seen that picture where it went viral?
Oh yeah, I saw that. I
And
saw
then
that.
and
I
then
saw that.
and then his statement was, you can't criticize him because apparently we're all Fijian now, and this racist narrative is why we had the 87 and 2000 coup. How ironic is that? Like, it's
Wow, why wouldn't I see this? Now I'm gonna go look for it.
yeah. I'll send you that. It was really appalling, that an MP is justifying the 2087
It's
coups,
never just
and both of them were based on race. Like, it doesn't, like,
based
people
on
like to say that there was like a deeper motive, there might have been something to do with financials and everything, but on the
no.
outside it was based on race, and that's how people saw it. It caused divide. Nico, it's hmm, I don't want to say it now.
I remember, like, since we're talking about the 87 coup, I remember my mother sharing a story, and she was like, um, they told, like, there was a group of Indian girls, they used to walk to school. My mother was part of that group, and my mother was told by her grandmother that if you see a van and it's full of Ethiopian men, you hide. You hide wherever you can find, you hide. Because they had already heard stories about women and girls being raped, and sometimes most of them, were left in such a bad state that there was no proper medical care around, especially at that time. And so they were like, you run and you hide. So they were walking to school. Imagine walking to school. School, a place where you think you'll be free, you can do whatever you want. And this van goes past, and it had um, some men in them, Itoke men. This group of girls, they ran and they hid in a ditch, like a drain, a dug drain. It was there in their school uniforms with their bags. They're hiding there, fearing for their lives on their way to school after the 87 coup. And my mother said we had to live like that for such a long time, so scared of what if somebody, whoever it was, would just turn around and like rape you or hit you or kill you
Yeah, and
because of who
this
you were.
happened publicly too. It wasn't just in isolated,
Yeah, it did.
and people were cheering them on too, which
And
uh, which is more disgusting and then sad.
it's sad. It's sad.
My grand
And I remember. No, go ahead. I love this internet connection. This is so courteous.
my granddad, he told me about his experience because they were living in the West when the coup happened, so they were a bit more safe than our fellow Indo-Fijian brothers in Suva. Um, so he was traveling to Suva for some work, and he had his brother-in-law, uh, or his cousin with him, and his cousin looked Itaukei, but he was Indian. Um, but you wouldn't be able to tell. Anyways, he got stopped at a checkpoint, and one of these guards, he took his rifle and he stuck it up my granddad's neck, like right under the jaw, and he was just shouting at him for apparently no reason at all. Like, he just stopped him and just stuck a gun up his jaw, under his jaw, and and then he looked inside the car and he saw my granddad's cousin, and he thought he was Ita. Okay, so he's like, okay, you're free to go. Like, it just happened so suddenly. uh and
Mm.
that's just one instance. There were thousands of other stories that happened all over Fiji during the 87 coup, and I don't think that an apology, just one apology, would make up for all of that. make up for all the women that were
Right.
raped, for all the families
Right.
that were evicted from their homes, for all the men that were brutally beaten up in the streets, uh, and still having the
Mm.
privilege to run for the PM's office. It's appalling. No,
Yep.
yeah,
In case people don't know, there are videos available of the 87 coup on YouTube. And if you watch that video closely, you can see Indian shopkeepers being beaten up. You will see there's this man. He's walking on the street. He's literally this man in his own business, Indo-Fijian man, walking on the street. Ethiopia man comes up, punches him in the stomach, fellow falls down, he kicks him, walks past laughing, as if the other person wasn't human, you know. And what's sad is that they used religion as one of those things to motivate these people. Because if you listen to the speech carefully, because my Itoki sister was with me and she translated it for me. The speech, one of those things that they said in the rally was that these people are um, devil worshippers or something like that, like idol worshippers, and they do not belong here or something. And I'm just thinking in my head, I, for one, go to church, right? I believe in the Christian faith, but I don't really like the term Christian. I prefer believer. Like Christianity has been abused so much, you can't even use it. Yeah, honestly, like And then um, you have the whole entire Ten Commandments summarized in two commandments. First says that you have to love your God with all your might, with all your, strength, everything that you have, you love God. The second one is very simple. It says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And then you think about it. Who is your neighbor? Anybody who is not you is your neighbor. So whether it's Ramesh down the road or Tui or I don't know, Sione, that's your neighbor. So if you don't want anybody punching you and raping your daughter, your sister, your wife, obviously you wouldn't want the same for Ramesh and Sione and Tui. So simple. So if you're going to give me the context that, oh no, like I am a Christian and Ramesh is a devil worshipper,
like the irony, the
makes no
hypocrisy behind that.
right? It makes no sense. Uh, and if they're going to still back it up with religion, God says that you're supposed to love everybody. Jesus himself said, like it's in towards the end of the New Testament, I forgot the chapter, but I remember it says that you say that you love God whom you cannot see when you can't even love your brother whom you can see. So it's a lie. You can't even love the person you see every day who was made by the same God. And here you are, in all of your nice attire, and you're just like, screaming and praising God and just like yelling it to the rafters that, you need to be saved, you need to be saved. Is your life reflecting what you were saying? You know, that says a lot.
The
Says
hypocrisy.
a lot.
And what's funny is that my granddad, he was, how should I say it? I think he was the semi-founder of the PCF Church, John Das. I'm not sure if you know him.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, the relationships that he has had with other pastors and other leaders, such as Pastor Otiko Bata, when he handed over the leadership, he didn't see race. He saw competency.
Mm,
He saw that he
mm,
had the ability to lead, and again, he used Christian values to govern the church. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Uh,
yeah.
So people who use religion to spread hate, they are the ones who are going to hell. I mean, I'm not
Oh yeah,
drinking anything, but just saying.
like free pass.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I find it really sad that you know in the 87 and even in the 2000 coup, a lot of people resorted to like destroying the temples and other religious places of the Hindus. How did that help? That didn't help in any way. You know, it just made you waste your time, your resources, and made you look really, really silly. You know, you can't go about preaching that your God is love or preaching that your God, is willing to welcome everybody. If you're going to be the same people who are instigating young boys and girls and people to go and destroy all of these things. I don't know if you watched this. There's a short film on YouTube about it's called Leonidas, about the 87 coup. We watched it on the day on the 14th of May. We watched it, and me and my Itoke sister, we were in tears. She had her reasons, I had my reasons, we both had our reasons, but we cried, you know. And then if you look at that movie, you realize that everybody has a choice whether to be racist or not. It's a choice. It's what you choose to be. It's taught to you. So, some of us we forget our mathematical sums a long time. If you ask me what is like, I don't know, 132 divided by 7, I can never tell you. So, if we can choose to forget that, we can very highly choose to forget racism. It's all about choice. So that's what I'm just saying. That's my opinion. Please don't publish me in the newspaper. My
But
father will like send me a longest essay from like overseas and be like, what are you doing? Disturbing the peace of our nation.
this reminded me of this social media influencer. Forgot her name, but she lives in Australia, and but she grew up in Fiji. She's Itauke, and then she went on this rant about Indo-Fijians, getting Itauke styled tattoos, uh, and that it's cultural appropriation. They shouldn't do it, and that
Mhm.
they should, that after the indentured system it was abolished, they should have packed their bags and left. And she had like 20,000 followers or
Man,
something on Instagram.
who is there?
I can't remember
Oh
her,
my god.
but it is a huge thing. And then this other guy from New Zealand, he sort of challenged her, like, come on a live debate with me, like it got really verbally aggressive. And everybody just started like hating on this girl, but then there were supporters of
I
her.
mean, but
It's I mean, for someone with her level of education and standard of living, and the platform that she has, and to say something like that, it's just goes to show it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a racist. You choose to be a racist.
oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on cultural
Um,
appropriation?
Abbreviation. So recently, that telonym thing started on Instagram, and everyone's like going telonym, telonym. So my best friend, who is Itoke male from the Tata level, which is very chiefly, is my best friend. And a lot of people had a lot of stuff to say about it. So somebody messaged him on telonym and was like, "Oh, can you please tell your best friend to stop pretending like she's Fijian because she's not, and tell her to stop wearing all those mats and masi and thing because it's not from her." And I'm like, First of all, cultural appropriation is when you do not give credit to the culture that it is from. I give credit to it. It's this. I'm wearing it for a special performance, or I'm wearing it to represent them in my attire in some way or the other. I'm not wearing it because I'm going for a fashion parade. No, I'm not wearing it because I want to look nice. It automatically makes you look beautiful. Now that's a plus point. But I'm not wearing it to abuse it. I'm wearing it to appreciate it. Now, if you ask me on the topic of those tattoos, now tattooing has been part of the Indian lifestyle as well as the Pacifica lifestyle. But for her to say that it was cultural appropriation, for sorry, because we did it is wrong. Because I know so many white people who do the same tribal tattoos and nobody says things to them. So why only when we decide to do it, it becomes appropriating? And a lot of times they don't realize that some of the patterns that they use and declare as Fijian aren't technically Fijian but are Polynesian in nature. And they come from like the Samoan tattooing tradition. And if you look at like the Indians, we have this tradition of tattooing, especially in the women folk. You would tattoo the name of your husband on your wrist or your forearm. And a lot of people thought it was just because it was romantic. No, it was because it was a tradition that you would have to get a tattoo of so-called thing, which I think is like, I'm so about it.
Yeah. I like the fact that you said,
Like I wouldn't want to brand myself like
yeah.
my partner.
I like the fact that you said that uh, you didn't wear those attires to show it off, but to appreciate it. That it does look beautiful. That's why I'm wearing it. I'm not wearing it to just win something, but to
Yeah,
show that um, this is beautiful. Your culture is beautiful, and I like it. And we live in the same community, so
yeah,
because the more you separate people based on what they wear and how they talk or what languages they speak or what they eat, you're ultimately dividing them by their race. uh, oh, and what was ironic about this girl was that she was a BLM supporter, so it was like the irony behind that.
oh my god. So I know, like, okay, please, if you can hear my dog, please excuse her. She's having a temper tantrum since we got cats in the house.
That's fine.
So um a lot of people I have seen, like, they be like, okay, BLM, Black Lives Matter, blah 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 blah. And then I stand for the black people, like I'm woke and all of this. And then you have the same people who will go down and like all of this like Fiji exposed forums and all of this and be like, oh, go back home, go wherever you came from and all. And you're just like, what's wrong with you? It's the same thing. Black Lives Matter is a stand against racism. It's not about black pride or being proud that you like black people. No, it's them fighting against racism in their country. And here we are trying to fight racism in ours. Please, like, mow your own lawn before you want to go and plant flowers in somebody else's. So simple, you know? So sad.
Just had me laughing. It's not even racist. It's just being utterly stupid. uh,
You said, I said you said.
and what was even worse was
Oh,
she had supporters. She had people reposting her stories and saying that they agree with her. And it's how do I say it?
wow.
It's sad, sad. It's truly
Wow,
sad
that's
that
really.
this is happening in the 21st century.
Well, since we're on the topic of cultural appropriation and you talked about attire, um, I think like remember when you were in primary school or in kindergarten and like they make you do all these makes together, like all the races together, like everybody gets together and we are going to do a make. That time Nobody stands up and starts screaming, "Hey, cultural appropriation!" Everybody's like, "Oh, so cute! Look at them, they're doing so well." And then all of a sudden, when a grown person is doing the same thing, and they're like, "Oh man, Savia Kaiviti," or "Oh, why she wants to be like one Indian girl? Why she wants to do one Indian dance?" What's the difference? The same thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I remember I forgot I forgot about this part. So when I was in Form 5, I was in Form 5, and recently I remembered this. Like I must be getting old. So I recently remembered when I was in Form 5, we had, I think it was Fiji Day or something, or Teachers Day. It was one of those days in school where you can come to school in mufti, you know. And then I remember, oh, it was Fiji Day. It was Fiji Day. So I remember I had a teacher. She was my preschool teacher, but she became more like family. Her name was Loata. And then I went home like a day before. And then I was like, oh, tomorrow is Mafti and it's Fiji Day. And I don't know what to wear, but I want to wear something nice. And then she goes, oh, then I don't know what you want to wear. I said, no, because it's Fiji Day, I want to wear something blue and something that represents Fiji. And then she goes, oh, okay. So the next day, she shows up at my house because our house was on top and the preschool was at the bottom. So she came to the preschool and she comes up and she's like, "Oh, Leo, I bought you something." And I was like, "What is this?" So she bought a masi for me. And then she made me wear the masi. I had the chamba on, blue chamba. She made me wear the masi. And the sash that goes for the masi, she put it in a way so that it would look like I was wearing a sari. So I wore it to school. And I forgot about it. So the other day, sitting down, and then the Itoke sister of mine, because we went to high school together, she's like, "Hey, remember the time you wore Masi as a sari?" And I was like, "Man." And she's like, "It was Form 5, remember?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." She's like, "Yeah, it was so nice." She's like, "What made you do that?" And I was like, and I told her what happened. And she's like, "Man, that's so, like, that's so sweet of her. That's so kind of her to do that." Now, that's not cultural appropriation. If she gives it to me, and makes me dress it in a way because she knows I'm going to do justice and be able to show how the cultures of our country come together in a beautiful outfit. That's not appropriation, that's appreciation, you know of culture. And then, so right after we had that conversation, it was really ironic. I went online and there was this long article posted by somebody who said that Indo-Fijians, he used a more derogatory like term. I didn't like it. He said, who have come into our shores and have taken our traditional artifacts and have abused them as, things for fashion and all of that. And he was like, they should not be wearing salus for graduations and for celebrations. They should not be wearing masi. They should not, like, you have this sash. This is made from masi. He's like, they shouldn't be doing those sashes with masi because it's disrespect. No, it's not. This was made by an Itoke lady, and it's her craftswomanship. It shows how she's preserving what she has learned over the years, and it represents, this Masi is from where she's from, and I am representing her when I wear it on the stage. I'm not representing, this is me because I look nice. The looking nice part is an added factor. The main factor is that you're appreciating her craft, her talent, and where it is from. Now, if you talk about the salu salu, the salu salu is made for people that you want to honor, made for people that you want to celebrate. It doesn't say anywhere that nobody else except the Itoke can wear it. When you go to any function, even if it's the Itoke function, the Itoke people will feel that the best way to honor a guest is by making them wear salu salu, whether the guest is Itoke, Fijian of Indian descent, Kevalangi, from China, or wherever. It doesn't matter. So that does not become cultural appropriation when it is given to you as a gift. or as a symbol of respect. When we do wear it for graduation, it's not that we don't value it or we just wear it and then we just throw it in some corner. No, I mean, I speak personally for my family. We don't do that. Whatever salus we receive are kept very, very nicely by my mother. And some of the salus we have in our house are so old and ancient, I even forgot where they're from. So, you know, you keep it because it's somebody's hard work, somebody's craft, somebody's tradition. So, if you are just going to generalize and say that, oh, it's only the Ethiopians are supposed to wear it because only they know how to respect it, that's wrong. That's really wrong. You can't say that.
Yeah, I'm following this guy on Facebook. He's a youth leader for Sodalpa Youth
Oh
Wing.
my.
I think it's called Sodalpa Youth Wing. So he's the leader for that, and he he wrote this article about how other races, when they wear something that belongs to the Itauke culture, it's racist and it's disrespectful. And then the next post was about how the Itauke and the Indo-Fijians can come together in unity. I apologize if you're a Sodalpa supporter, but I've got to point out the hypocrisy. It's they aren't
Yeah.
they aren't the best party for Fiji. The ideas aren't the best for our political climate as of now. We need parties that are less extreme, but also would be able to contend against the current government. uh
Oh yes.
Making posts and statements like that, it's you're not your ultimate goal is to get votes. If you want to win as a party, if you want to form a government, you don't get votes by dividing people. You don't get votes by saying that,
Oh
oh,
yeah, never,
bad.
never.
Yeah. And
Like even if it's just a small election, whether it's in a university or in an organization, you know very well that you are never going to win if you are the one who is causing the together is probably the most important factor that this country looks at when it comes to voting, you know, especially in terms of race. Like as far as I know, a lot of people they will vote. They voted for Fiji first because we could use the word Fijian. That I can guarantee. Just because they heard that they could now all be Fijian, like patriotism is such an important thing, and they're just like, yeah, Fiji first, you know. So that's the thing, and a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these political parties are just lying.
they have this agenda, this egoistic agenda, get power. To be
Yeah.
honest, in my view, the best possible party to vote for would be NFP at the moment. At the moment,
Yes. Yes.
I'm just
I
saying, I'm not
strongly
affiliating
agree.
myself with any party. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, I for one feel like looking at the current like political climate of our country right now, I don't want to associate myself with any either. Like at this point in time, I feel like one thing I know is what towards the election, Fiji First is definitely going to try like all of its nice shiny tactics again, that they use all the time. But a lot of people need to realize what their real, what can I say, the real agenda is behind all of this thing. Like the manifesto is there, yes. People will say things to please people all the time. But actions speak louder than words, and they have been here for like some time now. And when like the going got tough, these people started, like we gave the example of the ship, and they're like on the ship and they have nothing to do, and then like you have other people, they're like, yeah, give us our food. So yeah, that's how I behaved right now.
Yeah, that
Can't do much.
happens. When you stay in power for too long, you have concentration of power. You have
Mm,
people tend to lose freedom.
space and freedom. And
Yeah.
then um, what's really funny is that even when they were talking about like Fiji likes to have like Fijians in general, not just Fiji. Fijians in general like to have a lot of opinions about everything, right? And everyone was like talking about Trump and Biden and all of this, and I'm just like, hey, leave them, concentrate here. Like, oh man, I for one thought Trump was a very funny man, that he had his ways of doing things, which were okay, you know. He's a funny man, he's a very funny man.
Trump.
Yeah,
I really think he destroyed his legacy. I don't like either of them. No,
yeah, me too.
Biden. I
Mm.
used to like
But I,
Trump uh, back in 2018, I'd say. Uh, his economic side of running the country.
yes, I liked his economic side of running the country, but when it came to other things, I was like,
He was a provocateur. He's a really polarizing figure. He
yeah,
divided people. But then back to
he's a
your point.
businessman, you know. He
Yeah,
knows what he's doing when it comes to business. He's
yeah,
not a
exactly.
politician. He
Yeah, he's
doesn't know how to deal with people and issues. Oh,
yeah,
but
he's
like
just
that's the same
rash.
with a lot of people here in our government. Some people are just business people who are in government, and some people are just really good people who are trying to do good, but then they don't get enough, you know, to do it, and it's really sad. And some people are just there because they just need something to talk about, and some people are there to just relax like this.
To remove signboards.
Ah, yeah, I will never forget that. I was like, what is he? I had to like literally like, what is he doing? Like,
I thought he was same as you. I thought he
and
was
then
relaxing at first.
I was like, and then he's like, and I was like, oh, that's what you're doing. I was like, oh.
Oh man.
And then like, I feel like AG should have been more vigilant and like noticed that like, before saying that, like they're very fast at pointing fingers at every like each other, and they sometimes they fail to see their own like backyard, in this case background. So yeah.
I mean, they certainly had other concerning issues to talk about.
Yeah, like I feel like this session, like the sessions that have recently happened in Parliament, were so useless. Like, what did we gain from this apart from like the planes and the loans and some more plane debacle and potholes and oh my,
They talked about everything except for the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19.
like I'm I'm thinking like in the next say 10 to 20 years, all of us who have recently graduated with degrees, we might still be unemployed or doing jobs that are underpaid in this country, which is really sad because we work so hard and most of us have loans already on our heads. How are we going to repay those loans to the government and be able to live a fulfilling life and be able to, have children and do things that we wanted to do and be able to provide for them when ourselves we are being underpaid for all of the studying that we have done, which is really sad. And I really hope like
This,
um whoever comes into power does a really good job because this country is sinking and it's sinking fast. And it's so sad because it's just a small country and you have so much potential. Country has so much potential.
To be honest, I liked how the government handled the first wave of COVID that we had last year.
Mm.
This one, this one was terrible. That's a bit
I for one believe they were not ready for one.
yeah.
They thought it was gone. They thought it won't come back. They underestimated it. But so you should always have a backup plan, no? Just in case. Just in case
Just in case.
something fails.
Hopefully we can go back
I
to some form of normalcy after the second dose. Have
yes,
you got your
I
vaccine?
really feel yes, the first dose only, which was like all the way like in March. So I was supposed to get my second one in June, but since everyone's getting their first one now, I think it's going to move further. Hopefully
Did
not.
you try putting a magnet on your arm?
No, I didn't. I just trusted it. I trusted the vaccine. I went through it.
Man, these
You know,
videos going around of these guys, they're trying to put magnets to see if it sticks.
I feel for one, a lot of it is been motivated by a lot of um religion and a lot of false beliefs. In things like this, and it's very sad. I know some people who don't want to take the vaccine because they believe that the vaccine is going to make their chromosome count 666. How is that even possible? So that's one reason they don't want to take it. The other reason they don't want to take it is because they feel that the government is trying to track them with it, and it's a thing of like the devil worship thing, and they don't want to take it. And I'm
They
just like,
already track us with this.
yeah, right. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not believe it. There's so much like conspiracy theories going around.
Hmm.
But something that, I mean, it's my personal belief. My personal belief is that, um, if you look at God, and He gave wisdom and knowledge and understanding to man. And whenever there is a problem, it's not that God is going to abandon us and be like, okay, no. And then if you're waiting for like divine healing, when God is giving you a vaccine that He gave wisdom to man to make,
And otherwise, why do anything at all if God is going to be there constantly and trying to help?
yeah. And I tell you, it's a whole lot of like all of these weird things going around. And when I was going to go get vaccinated, I remember somebody telling my mother that if we get vaccinated, our blood will clot and we'll all die. I mean, they don't realize if we get vaccinated, the more people that get vaccinated, the more population that is vaccinated, the faster the economy will open, the faster things will get back to normal. If you are going to sit at home and you think some miracle will happen and the government's going to be like, okay, it's all right, everything goes back to normal, and when it goes like down the drain, and then these people blame the government again. you know it's like this never ending cycle. I'm stupid, you're stupid, we're all stupid together. Like, it's like it's a never ending flow.
This lady got arrested yesterday for spreading false information to do with the vaccine. That is the first I. But I'm not sure how that will play out with her followers, because I think that would make them more rigid in their views. Uh, you know,
Yeah, because they might be like, oh, why did they arrest her if she was like wrong?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I for one believe that a lot of religious leaders have a lot of power and influence over people. And if they feel that, this is wrong, or this vaccine is going to, take us away from God or something like that, like huge masses of people will not take the vaccine. They won't. And then you can, forget about normalcy coming anytime soon. Because if you're not vaccinated, it's pointless. You're so vulnerable. And the other thing that I've noticed, the basic thing, like having a mask on, like really, like yesterday we went to town. We had some shopping to do, some errands to run, and we went down to town. And every second person I saw wasn't wearing a mask. It doesn't mean you're sitting in your car, you put your mask down all the way here. Like, what if somebody stops you, like to check on you or something? Like, put your mask up properly. What if people are sitting in the vehicle with you? And like, you have those other people who are like walking down the street, like their mask is in their hand as if like it's a carry bag, and they're just going like, hey, like it's supposed to be on your face, not in your hand.
People make the case that it's
Like they,
hard to breathe in a mask. Uh, if it's hard to breathe in a mask, just stay home.
yeah, it's so simple. Stay home then. And like, it's hard to breathe in a mask, but it's harder to breathe when you're dead with COVID. Oh wait, you can't breathe at all. you know, so it's so simple. You wear a mask or you die. It's simple. Oh my. And then you have I have people that I know of who are like treating like just because Lautoka has no cases now and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's okay. Everything's normal now, everything is fine. We can like do whatever we want to. You don't know. We were still like locked when like the case in Nandi popped up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, how did that happen? Wasn't it in Suva? How did it end up here? Oh man, I was like, you know what, just leave it. Leave it.
I mean, okay, so wow, we've been 2 hours into the podcast.
Yeah, I went to shut up now.
Oh, no, it was absolutely fine. You spoke your ideas really well. Um, hopefully we don't get deported for this. But in general, what you spoke about was a really
If
unique.
I get deported, blame you.
I'll
Keep
just
it with
tweet with them.
it.
But in general, you had a really unifying message.
Oh
Race
man.
doesn't matter. We are all Fijians. Um,
Yes.
we can learn each other's suffering and empathize with each other and move forward as a society so that we can develop our economic system, not only our economic system but our social system, our education system, to a point where we have a much better standard of living than we have now. And yeah, what we've discussed so far was really good, and I thank you for joining the podcast. Would you like to share any thoughts, any final thoughts before we sum up?
Okay, so first of all, like just like a disclaimer, like these opinions are mine and they're like just mine. Like, I'm not saying like everybody's like it's just observations. I don't want to get kicked out of this country. I love this country. Mr. Ali went to it. I lie. So yeah, these are my opinions, and like this is what I have like seen and I've heard and have experienced growing up as a young Fijian woman in this country. Do I still count as young? Yes, I think I do. Mentally, I do. Right. So, and then the other thing that I would like to highlight that is very important is, like I said before, we need to share stories. We need to sit down and be able to, share each other's experiences, be able to talk about all the things that are affecting us. Because if we don't sit down, the spirit and the culture of Talanoa has been part of this country for a long time. So it's all about going back to that. Have a Talanoa with somebody like, who you have known all of your life, but there's some things about that person that you would never know, and then who knows, you two might just end up getting to know each other better, and slowly but surely one day I do have hope that the racism in this country will diminish, not completely gone,
Yes, that is impossible, but I feel like it will diminish if we keep sharing our stories and focusing on, the common ground that we have rather than pinpointing at the differences that we have. And learn to appreciate each other's culture, learn to be able to have love and respect for each other's beliefs. Also, don't abuse your religion and your privilege of having an opinion about your religion and your beliefs. Like, don't use it to bring other people down. You need to realize that we all need each other to make this country prosper. No one can do it by themselves. We all need to be there for each other. With that, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to somebody else apart from my family during this lockdown. Uh, Thank you so much for having me. I just hope we don't get arrested or deported or just disappeared from the face of this earth to, like, you know, in the middle of nowhere. Thank you
Hopefully
so
not.
much, and I hope you keep doing this because this is great because it allows a lot of people to know and interact and get to like share ideas and thoughts. And we need that right now because sometimes the solutions come from people that we meet in our everyday life. So thank you so much for doing this. It's a great initiative. Keep it up. Go you.
Thank you so much to you too. It's people like you who make this a success. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that was episode 2.